Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and today we're going to be talking about Space Marine chapters as we get into the Steel Confessors. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day, and if you have any suggestions, please comment down below. Now, if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Steel Confessors. Sometime during the 36th millennium, the Adeptus Mechanicus found itself besieged by the various threats plaguing mankind, while their Scutari cohorts unquestionably fought for the safety of the various forge worlds in the galaxy. The Admech believed that they needed something stronger to protect their interest and rival the strength and power of any other Imperial force. They took it upon themselves to create a secret chapter of Space Marines that only bore loyalty to Mars and the cult Mechanicus. Understanding that out of the loyalist Primarchs, only Ferrus Manus and his sons, the Iron Hands, maintained the closest belief system to that of the cult Mechanicus, and so they took the tithe gene seed of this loyalist first founding legion, and without permission from the High Lords of Terra, they created the Steel Confessors. Clad in metallic silver with green trim, and bearing the chapter's badge of the black crosslet with a white lightning bolt surmounted in the middle of a red oval, the Steel Confessors were introduced to the Imperium during the 19th Space Marine founding. Unfortunately for the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Inquisition discovered their secret scheme to create the private Space Marine chapter that was the Steel Legion, and reported the act to the High Lords of Terra. After much deliberation, the High Lords decreed that despite the Adeptus Mechanicus having greatly overstepped their mandate, they would be allowed to keep this newly created chapter, with certain limitations of course. The Steel Confessors were first required to take the same vows of fealty and loyalty to the Imperium of Man that bound all Space Marine chapters, and to separate itself organizationally from the Adeptus Mechanicus so that it operated as a truly independent chapter, just like all the others. Though the Mechanicus was not well pleased by this edict of the High Lords, they begrudgingly agreed to Terra's terms so as to avoid a potential conflict which both Mars and Terra could ill afford in the tumultuous days of the 36th millennium, known as the Age of Apostasy. Because of the Adeptus Mechanicus' influence on the chapter, the Steel Confessors are organized predominantly according to the tenets of the Codex Astartes, though they do incorporate some of the atypical organizational elements used by the Iron Hands. The Steel Confessors divided the chapter up into 10 standard companies, rather than the clad companies as the Iron Hands do. The Steel Confessors do not incorporate the specialist rank of the Iron Hands, known as the Iron Father, within their chapter, preferring to keep the two traditional Astartes specialties of Chaplain and Tech Marine separate as in most other chapters. However, all of the Steel Confessors company captains are also trained to serve as both Artificers and Tech Marines. The chapter master of the Steel Confessors is traditionally chosen by a council composed of the chapter's company captains, chaplains, librarians, and dreadnoughts. In the event of a tie vote between the two candidates, the 5 most senior sergeants within the chapter then cast their vote. Because of their close relationship with the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Steel Confessors are provided with an excellent supply of the finest heavy arms, armor, war machines, and equipment that the manufacturers of Mars can currently produce. Like their forebearers among the Iron Hands, the Steel Confessors are utterly intolerant of physical or mental weaknesses in others, and the least of all in themselves. This harsh discipline has gone to some extreme situations, like when the chapter actually destroyed the Talaran 54th Regiment of the Imperial Guard for failure to achieve objectives. This intolerance of weakness manifests most notably in the distinct preference for high levels of cybernetic replacements of healthy portions of their bodies with augmetic bionics, which is quite a commonplace practice within the chapter as it is in other Iron Hand successors. Spiritually, the chapter believes in a divine Trinity that is a modified version of the faith held by the Adeptus Mechanicus. This Trinity is composed of the Machine God, the universal spirit of knowledge that provides strength to all, and the Emperor of Mankind, who stands as the physical embodiment of knowledge incarnate, and the Machine God in the universe as the Omnissiah, and finally, their Primarch, Ferrus Manus, the greatest prophet of the Machine God. The majority of the other Space Marine chapters frown upon the Steel Confessors' obscene reverence for the mechanical and the physical embodiment of knowledge, just as they frown upon those chapters who adopt the imperial creed and revere the emperor as a god rather than as a father, an inspiration, and humanity's greatest guide. In the 41st millennium, the Imperium encountered the first Tyranid Hive Fleet, which was designated Hive Fleet Behemoth. This encounter was also the first contact the Imperium had with the Tyranid race. Hive Fleet Behemoth emerged from the galactic southeast of the Eastern Fringe in the Ultima Segmentum without warning and plowed like an unstoppable juggernaut into the realm of the Imperium, devastating hundreds of star systems and devouring everything in its path. Compared to later Hive Fleets that adopted a variety of strategies as they faced Imperial resistance, Behemoth showed no subtlety in its nearly berserker initial advance. Unfortunately for the Steel Confessors, their original chapter homeworld, the Forge World of Craxus IV, stood in the path of the Great Devourer and was soon attacked by the ravenous swarm of these foul Xenos. Though they fought valiantly, the planet soon fell to the Behemoth, forcing the Confessors to make a hasty withdrawal, lest they suffer the complete annihilation of their chapter. Chapter Master Protonus was killed during the defense of the planet, valiantly holding the line so the last of his battle brothers could escape the Doom World. His body was recovered and was later buried on Kelvala alongside the remains of the Steel Confessor's first chapter master, Avonus. When the Tyranid menace was finally stopped and defeated at the Battle of Macragge by the Ultramarines and the Imperial Navy's Battle Fleet Ultima, the Steel Confessors were granted a new homeworld by the Imperium upon the Forge World of Kalvala. Unfortunately for the chapter, a new Tyranid menace assaulted their new homeworld. The battle for Kalvala was once again fought on the Steel Confessor's own homeworld against the invading Tyranids, though this time the chapter determined that there would be a very different outcome when they faced off against this great devourer. The entire chapter of the Steel Confessors successfully engaged in battle against the Tyranids of Leviathan. The world of Kalvala was home to the Steel Confessors' Fortress Monastery, their chapter's gene seed stores, and a major Adeptus Mechanicus Manufactorum, as well as a full psychic choir of astropaths that boosted the Astronomicon to allow navigation through the difficult currents in the immaterium created by the Tyranid hive mind's psychic shadow in the warp. This being the chapter's homeworld, there was no other choice other than to defend it in open battle from the forces of Tyranid Hive Fleet Leviathan. The battle was colossal and brutally straightforward, with each of the 10 companies of the Steel Confessors taking up defensive positions around the Mechanicus Manufactorums and their fortress monastery, while the Tyranid horde attacked unrelentingly in an attempt to overwhelm the Astartes' firing lines. Despite the incalculable number of Tyranid presence on Kalvala, the disciplined regime of volley fire from the Steel Confessors' tactical marines and the Devastator squads, combined with surgical counterattacks by the assault squads, veteran squads of the 1st Company, and land speeder squadrons flying between battlefield locations to lend their firepower to those companies that were struggling. Eventually, it thinned the Tyranid horde while minimizing Space Marine casualties. The Tyranids finally depleted their own numbers after constantly throwing themselves without regard into the sustained fire of Astarte guns. At the end of the battle, the 8th and 10th companies of the Steel Confessors had been utterly wiped out, and the 1st Company was at 40% operational strength, and the 3rd and 6th Company were at 60%, while the rest of the chapter's company still possessed between 20 to 40% of their standard operational strength. Yet Kalvala had held against the swarm, and the Leviathan soon moved on to seek easier prey. The Steel Confessors still had possession of their homeworld, and there would be no repeat of the humiliation that had been suffered in their previous homeworld. And those were 40 facts on the Steel Confessors. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to share it with your friends on Facebook, Reddit, whatever social media you guys use. It really helps out the channel when you do so. And, of course, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. It's $1 a month, and that dollar goes to the giveaways that we got going on, and also we're trying to improve our sound quality, which brings me to my next point. If you've noticed, the sound might sound a little different, or the voice might sound a little different today. We are trying out a new mic. I need from you guys to comment down in the comment section below. let me know how this sounds. While I was editing, it's a little lower than what we normally post, but it is a little more clear. The voice is a little bit more clear. We're going to be testing other mics, and we're going to be testing other recorders, but it's all thanks to our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that everybody on YouTube can benefit from an upgrade in the videos and all that kind of stuff. So again, thank you guys so much for the support, and link in the description. Now let's get into the giveaway. We were giving away an Imperial Assassin, the Vindicar Assassin, and that winner is this guy. All you have to do is either, if you are the winner, hit us up on here on YouTube. You can message us, or you can message us on our Facebook page, One Mind Syndicate on Facebook, or even the Instagram, which is One Mind Syndicate, also on Instagram. Message us with your name, address, and we will ship this guy out to you. Thank you guys for everybody that participated. More giveaways coming very, very soon. And again, thank you to all of our patrons, and can't wait to hear the feedback on what this sounds like. Thanks for everything, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. This was Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.